Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know, these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. This episode features painter Na Kim. Born in Seoul, South Korea, she lives and works in Brooklyn, New York. Known for her mimetic portraits set against polychromatic backgrounds, her paintings depict figures but are conceptually abstract. Her imagined subjects, derivative yet unique, evoke both confrontational and intimate encounters. Na's practice centers neither accuracy nor narrative, but rather reflects a deeply meditative character study. Her solo exhibitions include her debut presentation at White Columns in New York in 2023, and currently at Nicola Vassell Gallery in New York City. Na's group exhibitions include the Selves at Nicola Vassell Gallery in 2024 and White Columns Benefit Auction in New York in both 2023 and 2024. She has shown work at a number of art fairs in 2024, including Art Basel Miami Beach and the Independent Art Fair in New York City. In addition to her fine art practice, Na currently works as the art director of the Paris Review and creative director of the publishing house Farrar, Straus and Giroux. Her designs have been named among the New York Times Best Book Covers of the Year for the past 9 consecutive years. Enjoy this episode featuring painter Na Kim. Na, welcome to my podcast. I'm excited to learn more about your practice. So let's start with, when did you discover that you wanted to paint?
I've always wanted to paint. It's like a tale as old as time, I feel like every artist says since my childhood. But I think I gave myself the space to paint a little over 2 years ago. I felt really overworked and just kind of decided I needed to do something for myself. And painting's always sort of existed in the back of my mind as something I wanted to do. So I thought, why not now?
Let's talk about your work, figurative versus abstraction. What category do you fall in?
I would say generally overall figurative for now. I think abstraction creeps its way into the painting. I think conceptually it's more abstract, but in its physical form, I guess you would classify it as figurative.
Does drawing have a role in your work?
Not the paintings, actually. And drawing doesn't really play into my design work either in terms of doing sketches or my illustration work. I kind of just like the process to show me where I need to go. I like to let each mark kind of inform where the next one goes. And I like for it to be an intuitive process. So I don't like starting a painting knowing exactly what I want it to look like. It's really more about the journey and the act of painting for me.
So we do need to talk about your work as an illustrator.
I have multiple jobs, so I work as an illustrator. I work in-house at a publishing house as a creative director designing book covers. And then I also work at the Paris Review as the art director there, where it's more of a curatorial job, where I work with Matthew Higgs and Carol Cohen to commission portfolios by artists and choose the cover and things like that. So it's kind of like a little bit of everything for me.
What do you enjoy doing the most?
Painting.
And are there thoughts that connect your paintings?
You mean between each other?
Yes.
Well, I make serialized work, so each painting kind of informs the next. And the way that this body of work sort of came to fruition was, initially I made one portrait and then I tried to copy that portrait just from the memory of it to see if I could do it. And then I would make another painting based on the painting before. So there is like a sort of genealogy to them. But now it's more free form, and I kind of approach the painting in a new age, or I try to approach it in a new age time. But yeah, I guess they all inform each other in that sense. And the fact that they sort of depict this face or figure that's could all be one person, all different. It could be me, it could be a memory of somebody else, but they kind of merge into one and not separate completely as well. So it's all relative, I guess.
When do you know a work is finished?
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I have to ruin a painting to know that it's finished and that it's never going to be shown. But something that I look out for is when it feels true. And I don't know that I have any other way to describe it. But when it feels like there's emotion or true, or if I connect to it in a certain way, then I feel good about it. So I don't know that it means that it's finished, but that's usually the point where I can stop myself.
And your color choice. What inspired you to work with the colors you work with?
I think just through trial and error, really. I mean, if there's one thing I learned in art school, it was just to mix all of my own colors. So I actually start with a really limited palette, and then, like I said before, with the mark making, just let each decision inform the next one. So if the background of a painting is primarily blue, I don't really think beforehand that I want to make a blue painting. It'll kind of reveal itself once everything around it shows up, if that makes sense.
Are you influenced by other artists?
Oh man, all the time. Yeah. Not so much in terms of like style or the kind of art. I get really excited when I see an artist's work that inspires. You know, when you go see a show, one recently was Margot Bergman, and you see her paintings and it's like, wow, I've never seen that before. And it just inspires you to make art, and it makes you say, I want to do that. And those are the kind of artists that I think influence me the most, whether or not their work is related to my work.
When you're creating, do you think about who your audience is?
Not when I'm creating. I think that's a bit of a fool's errand, if I'm being completely honest. You know, it's such a trap to know what people like and what they respond to, because then there's a part of you that might say, I should make more of that work. And it becomes about pleasing others. And I think it's really important for artists to remain authentic as possible. You could really lose yourself when you start thinking about what other people want. I do that for my jobs all the time with design, because it's not about me. It's about the author, or, you know, for the Paris review, it could be for the audience or the artist that I'm working with. But when it comes to my own paintings, I really try to steer clear of that. But it's not to say that like an audience isn't important. It's just when you're working, I think you should be thinking about the work.
Do you listen to music while you're working?
Yes, constantly. And it's like all types of music. You know, I can be listening to trap music one day and then Sophie the next, or classical. It really just depends on my mood. And, you know, if I need a burst of energy, sometimes I'll listen to top 40 pop music. So, but yeah, it's constantly playing in the background.
Regarding art professors, how did they guide your career? Is there anything specific that impacts your practice?
I think support can show up in a lot of different ways. And I think one great example of that was I had this teacher in college named Whitney Sherman. And, you know, I was so broke back then and could barely afford to pay for art supplies and things like that. And the restaurant I had worked at had closed. And, you know, Whitney knew about this and gave me a job repainting her house for the summer just so I can make a little bit of money. And I think that's like a way of support that I'm grateful for. Or just like I had this teacher, Eric Swangstu. I took like a pre-college class in high school, and I would still send him my paintings and my schoolwork years after, and he'd always respond and be so encouraging. So I think just like showing up, making space and time for you, and giving you the encouragement you need to go on has been like the most influential for me. And in terms of my practice now, he wasn't a professor, but like Matthew Higgs, you know, I didn't talk to anyone about my painting. He just one day reached out to me from seeing my Instagram, like, hey, do you want to show some paintings at Independent? And I think they're worth showing. And just him sort of giving me that opportunity and like showing me that my work is worth sharing was enough for me to take myself seriously. So, very impactful, I think.
How do you keep learning?
I think I'm a naturally curious person. I'm interested in the world around me, but also I'm kind of always testing myself, I think. And I think the most important thing for me to come to terms with is that I don't know anything. So I think once you kind of decide that you're not this fixed set person, then the possibilities really open up. So, with painting, it's kind of just knowing that where you are and knowing that you can always evolve and grow and kind of challenging yourself to do that. It could be hard, but it's also really exciting and sort of addictive. So I'm always asking, well, how can I make this better? What else can I do? What do I not know about?
How would you compare creating illustrations versus painting? How does your brain work? Does it work differently depending upon what you're creating?
Absolutely. I think some of the same sensibilities carry over into one or the other, but the way I approach it's completely different. One, illustration is commercial work. It usually involves a client, problem solving, and a goal. And you're usually interpreting somebody else's work, whether it's written, I guess it's usually text or something like that, or it could be a brand or an object, I guess. But you are collaborating with other people to get somebody else's message across. So you're not really thinking about yourself. But for me, painting is the ultimate act of self love in a way. Like for me, it's meditative, and, some people run, some people do yoga, and I paint. It's a really safe space for me where I can kind of just focus on myself and have these moments of calm and peace. And so it's completely different. There's no agenda there.
When do the titles of your work enter the creative process?
I'm not titling my work yet.
Ah,
I'm not there yet. I thought about titling the works for the show, and some paintings I have working titles in my head for them, but not consistently across the board. So I decided to leave them untitled for now. I also think that titles can really affect the way that the audience views the work. It's information. And for now, there's something I really like about the ambiguity in my paintings. I like that you kind of have to decide what it is. And I think that's okay.
what are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about? I'm excited about life. I'm excited for the new year. I don't know, just to be alive, to be here, really, nothing specific. I'm really just enjoying becoming myself more and more and not knowing exactly what that looks like.
If you weren't an artist, what other career path do you think you would have taken?
Originally, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon, but in high school, I had one really bad year of grades. So I was like, I guess I'll be an artist. That path sort of just chose itself out of lack of choices. But it's interesting. If talent weren't an issue, a dream would be to be a writer. I'm just always kind of amazed at their craft and their level of world building, and how somebody writes a novel will always blow my mind. So, in a dream world, a writer.
And what do you enjoy most about your practice?
I think just the act of painting itself. I find it mesmerizing. It just feels really good. The act of creating something, I think, is pretty special, and it's like a very privileged thing to be doing, to even have the time and space for that in your life. So, just the painting itself.
What would you say have been the most substantial challenges that you've encountered as an artist?
I think there are a few challenges. I think one big one is feeling like you deserve to be making art at all. For me, has been a real challenge. to feel valid in making art. Am I good enough? Is what I'm painting, does it matter? And does there need to be a reason that I'm doing this? I think that's always a challenge, to kind of make space for yourself. The other challenge, of course, is like time, money, and things like that. Luckily, I have jobs, so I don't, there are restrictions that not being a wealthy bajillionaire trust fund person creates, in terms of, making art. Like, how much space do I have? Can I afford nice paints and all of that? But the jobs sort of alleviate that. But time is a real issue for me because of the jobs. And also just figuring out the balance between work and enjoying life is always a challenge. But I mean, I enjoy painting so much that it doesn't really feel like a compromise most of the time.
And what does your workspace look and feel like?
My workspace is very small. It's very compact. It's filled to the brim with paintings because I try to paint every day, 7 days a week. I try to go to the studio. So there are a lot of paintings in there. It's relatively tidy because it kind of has to be in order for me to be able to work in there. So it's cold, unromantic. I have a hand-me-down couch. I have actually a beautiful easel I inherited from Duncan Hannah, which I'm grateful for every day. It's a very modest space, but it's my space, and I'm happy with it.
What do you feel is the purpose of art?
That's an interesting question. I think art is a lot of different things for every individual, but for me, it's a place of rest for the artist, for the viewer. Art reflects, it inspires, it creates space, it connects. It's almost like a bridge, like you could do a lot with a bridge. You could sit there and enjoy the view. You can use it to get across. You could use it to meet people. I don't know, it's so many things, right? It's like a form of record keeping, storytelling. It just, sometimes it's just a moment in time, but really it's just, I don't know, it's beauty, it's all of it. It's everything and nothing at the same time. And I think that it doesn't really need a purpose outside of itself, if that makes sense. I think just existing, and even if there's no audience, it's doing something for the artist because they're communicating. There's an urge inside to make the art. It's doing something for them. And even as a viewer, if you stop and just see a painting or sculpture installation and it moves you, that's enough. As a place to just kind of breathe and step outside of our lives, I feel like that's important enough.
So with that said, this is our last question. As an artist, what do you feel is your role?
Just to convey some sort of truth. Nothing really beyond that. Very uncomplicated for me. When you're like showing something true, people then can feel that. So it's the best thing we can do as artists in our work, I think, more than having a narrative or agenda. It's just to kind of be real in whatever shape that takes. Also, just kind of existing as an artist is important too. I think one of the most important things we talk about the origins of like, when did we become interested in art? It's usually from seeing other art or somebody else doing it, and to even know that that's a possibility is so important. So a painting I make might not be the best or important in any way, but if, somebody could see it and be like, oh, this painter exists, maybe I can be a painter. I think that's pretty important and special.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.